You know, I'm starting to think the people that work at Bungie who are in charge of sandbox and upgrading exotics have some sort of kink towards making Warlock gloves the most broken things in the entire game. But credit to them, I thought I would never utter this sentence. Nothing Manacles might be one of the best exotics Warlocks have, period. And certainly, I think right now, is the best void-based exotic that they have. As evidenced by the intro to this video, Nothing Manacles are now essentially pocket nukes that you regenerate extremely quickly, can throw out basically anywhere on either single targets or groups of enemies. Everything instantly explodes, then those explosions chain off with, a chain reaction, like you're multiplying freaking Karibos, and then everything from there gets chained on, and then they explode, killing everything. And that's not all. While all this is happening, you're getting gigantic chunks of super energy, which feeds into your Nova Bomb, which somehow has now become the grenade in this equation, and your grenade is now your nuke super, which is kind of funny. But you get your super incredibly quickly with this, and you could use this anywhere. Low-end content to just make fun of everything and just bully them, or high-end content where you just shred through the enemy's health bar even though you're negative 30, 40, 50, whatever. Oh, and just as an added bonus, because, you know, you definitely needed it, you will also be constantly healed non-stop every single time that you get a kill, and you make 3 billion orbs when you do get a chain off on a group of enemies. So not only are you getting your super extremely quickly already just based off of high damage, but you're also making a ton of orbs, which you can then pick up to get even more super energy, or even if you don't need those orbs, you make them for your teammates, which then benefit from getting their surges, their super, and so on. So what do Nothing Manacles do now? They state you gain an additional scatter grenade charge, it enables tracking for scatter grenade projectiles, and scatter grenade final blows create an additional scatter grenade projectile, which all have aggressive tracking, by the way, like it's a true rocket. And then, like I said, once something explodes, it starts a chain reaction, and everything around that dead enemy will now explode too. Essentially, you treat this like a controverse hold grenade now, you charge it up, and then you chuck it and watch everything burn. Or, I guess in this case, it evaporate? And don't get it twisted, some of you might think, well, you know, scatter grenades, they're okay, but they're not that good in high-end content. No, try throwing it at some yellow bar enemies, like in the Lawless Frontier. They absolutely chunk. Another great benefit to this build is that you get multiple grenade charges instead of just having one slotted in, and while you're using one grenade, you can also be charging a second one up in the process, thanks to how the build works with Devour. Before going over the build, and yeah, spoiler alert, Devour is part of the build, shocking, I know, I want to talk about the stats. So, let's take a look at that. Here are my stats. The number one stat, of course, is going to be our grenade. So I ended up maxing this out at 200. Normally, I would put this to 160 and then benefit from 2 font mods in my gloves, but for this build, I opted to go with maximizing to 200 for the maximum amount of damage and recharge, and then for my Nothing Manacles, I actually have 3 copies of Firepower. This is how we are going to be making 1 billion orbs every time we kill groups of enemies. Basically, every second you get a kill with your grenades, you will make an orb. If you don't have these mods on, for example, if I took 2 copies off, I would then have to wait 10 seconds to be able to do this over and over consecutively. But with this, it's a 1-second cooldown with 3 copies. Back to the stats, number 2 is going to be our super. You want to get this to at least 100, that way the cooldown for the super is as low as it can go. That way you can chain Novas as fast as possible in whatever activity you're doing. If you want to pump it even higher past 100 to do bonus damage with your Nova, you can do that as well. Or you can go the other way of just trying to kind of maximize your other stats as much as you can. You can put up your melee a little bit to do some extra damage with your melee or get it back faster. There's also a combination with this build where you get your melee back every time you use your grenade, so that's nice too. Or you could pump in your weapon stats for, you know, ammo purposes, more weapon damage, etc. Up to you, really. The main thing is just grenade with super. Now for the kit, let's start with our aspects since we already know one of them. It's going to be Feed the Void, which is going to give us Devour anytime that we get a Void ability kill, which is going to be extremely easy with this build. Once Devour is active, anytime that we get kills, we restore health. That's going to keep us alive consistently. And then also, you get grenade energy back every time you get a kill once Devour is active. So as you're killing things with your grenade, you're also charging back your grenades, and since we have multiple slots of grenades in our build, you pretty much are never going to run out of scatter nades unless you're just chucking them one by one non-stop at like a boss. Our other aspect is going to be Chaos Accelerant, because it's going to give our scatter grenades the added benefit of having our submunitions track to nearby targets. For our abilities, you could put whatever super you want. I personally would go with Nova Bomb Cataclysm, although you can go with Vortex if you'd like. Just don't do Nova Warp in higher end content. It's not a great time. Then in our standard abilities, it's pretty all straightforward. Healing Rift, Burst Glide, Pocket Singularity, and then Scatter Grenade for the build. And in my fragments, I have 4 of them from left to right. The first one is going to be Echo of Harvest. Defeating weakened targets creates an Orb of Power and a Void Breach. So this build on its own can already make enemies weakened, but you also have the added benefit of the artifact helping you weaken enemies by using a Praxic Blade this season. So you could do either one if you'd like. Number 2 is going to be Echo of Undermining. This is how you make weakened enemies on your own by using this fragment. Your Void Nades weaken all targets. So you just chuck your nades and they're instantly weakened before they take the chunk damage. This has a negative 10 stat to grenade, so if that hurts you a lot, you could swap this out for something else, but I ended up keeping it just for easy use. Number 3 is going to be Echo of Provision. Damaging targets with grenades grants melee energy. Now, this isn't really great. You could definitely swap this out for something else if you'd like. However, it does give you a plus 10 stat on grenade, so if you're struggling on grenade stat to get more damage, you could just put this on, or if you, I guess, like spamming your melee in Void Warlock. And lastly, we have Echo of Persistence. Void buffs apply to you. Invisibility, Overshield, and Devour have increased duration. Pretty self-explanatory for either Devour or if you want to put an Overshield on yourself. Now, as for weapons for this build, you can go one of 2 avenues. One is going to be using Void weapons. If you want to have a Void build with Void weapons, then use Suppression and Volatile rounds and all of that with your fragments. You could go that avenue if you'd like. The other avenue is the generic path this season with Praxic Blade. The reason I mentioned Praxic Blade is because there's plenty of things to mess around with, like, for example, Impact Core on Praxic Blade. It lets you weaken targets when you're using the sword. Additionally, you can use Hyper Blade, which gives you Amplified if you just simply block shots with your blade. If you didn't know, Amplified gives you free 15% damage resist and also makes you harder to hit, which means you're going to be harder to kill. It also synergizes with our artifact with Singularity Blade, which states while you have a Void Elemental buff, Devour, melee and sword hits weaken targets. So even if you don't want to run Impact Core on your blade, you can use this artifact mod and still weaken targets with your sword. Then there's Sword Storm Combo, which gives you Penumbral Blades, giving you bonus damage on whatever enemy you're fighting as long as you do some light attacks and finish with a heavy attack. Or you can add Void Infestation, which says defeating a weakened target, whatever way you want to weaken a target with the 20 different methods you have now, it spawns a tracking projectile that weakens the other targets nearby after you kill that one. And obviously, this doesn't have to be with a sword. This could be literally with just your grenades. Now, if you don't want to use Praxic Blade, that's totally fine. The other 2 options you can have are going to be Choir of One, which is just a slam dunk. It's a Void weapon. You can proc Volatile rounds if you like with it. It's extremely good in endgame content. It has plenty of ammo reserves. It's perfect for this build. If you don't have Choir, or you are sick of using Choir because it's been so good for so long, try Aegir Scepter in your top slot, where instead of using your Nova Bomb to just kill a few targets, which your grenades already do, you can utilize Aegir Scepter's Catalyst to put it into Catalyst mode, sucking away your super to give you a crazy damage boost to your Aegers, which can then stagger and freeze enemies or just chunk bosses down outright. And that's all there is to it. You just throw your grenade at a red bar enemy, which gets everything started, and from there on, you become a slaying machine. And I honestly can't believe how good this really is. Nothing Manacles genuinely was such garbage right before this buff. I cannot believe how good they are now. Even without the artifact, I think they'll still be extremely good going forward. And just when I thought Controverse Holds were back last season, being the top Void exotic in the game, I think Nothing Manacles might have dethroned them already, which is kind of sad. Lastly, here are the armor mods. As always, I'll have a dim link down in the description below in case anybody wants to try the build. But here are the mods on screen. So my helmet, I got 2 copies of Ashes to Assets to give me super energy when I get grenade kills, to get my super that much faster, and then 1 copy of Kinetic Siphon for my Praxic Blade. If you don't have Praxic Blade on, then you can just swap this out. In my gloves, I already mentioned, 3 copies of Firepower, allowing me to make orbs every other second with my grenades. In my chest, I have 2 resists, and then 1 copy of Charged Up, just for things like special finisher chaining and all of that. You can swap this for, like, Arc Resist if you want. In my boots, 1 copy of Absolution to reduce all ability cooldowns every time I pick up an orb. Again, we're printing orbs with our Firepower, so that happens all the time. 1 copy of Recuperation just for added health regen on top of Devour. And then 1 copy of Kinetic Weapon Surge to buff our Praxic Blade. And in class item, I have 1 copy of Powerful Attraction for when I rift, I can just scoop up all the orbs out around me instead of running around. Then I have Distribution, reduce all ability cooldowns when using my class ability near targets. Again, same thing with Powerful. And then lastly, Special Finisher in the event that I want some ammo. Although with Praxic Blade, this really is pointless because you just basically have unlimited ammo with that. Cheeky edit at the end, I almost forgot to show you guys my armor in case you're curious. So, for the armor pieces, I have a Grenadier piece for my helmet. I have nothing manacles with these stats for the gloves. Chest is also Grenadier. Boots, Gunner, and then class item is also Grenadier. In case you're curious why this is 190 instead of 200, I actually ended up just going back to Expulsion. Either one is fine, depending which way you want to lean, Explosions or more stat on your grenade. There you go, enjoy. And that is the build. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think this is the best Void build in the game now for Warlocks? I know some people are out there running things like Fellwinter and obviously Controverse, but I think this currently has the cake. Let me know what you think. If you did enjoy the video or the build, please consider subscribing today. It does help the channel grow and is much appreciated. If you want to go the extra mile, you could leave a like and or comment below as well. If you don't know what to leave as a comment, you could leave Nothing Survives as the comment. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.